post-operative care after gynecology surgery. And the experts for this session are Dr. Madhvika Sabharwal ma'am, Dr. Renu Chawla, and Dr. Madhvika Sabharwal. She needs no introduction. She is a jewel of Delhi Gynae Forum. She is Padam Shri awardee. She is the founder, chairperson, Delhi State IAG. She is the present president of the Delhi Gynae Forum Central. She is the past president of Delhi Gynae Endoscopy Society. She is the executive member of AOGD. She is the past managing committee member IAG. She is recipient of the APJ Abdul Kalam Excellence Award, a recipient of Dr. Satyapal Award. Besides this, she has conducted so many fellowship programs for laparoscopy and endoscopy. She has been invited faculty in many conferences. Then we have Dr. Renu Chawla, alumni of Lady Hardinge Medical College and Sucheta Kriplani Hospital. She is the present joint secretary of our forum, practicing obstetrician and gynecologist with interest in high risk obstetrics. Then we have Dr. Surjit Kapoor ma'am. She is the senior consultant director at Kapoor Medical Center. She's been running her private center for the past 30 years. She's a life member of AOGD, FOXY. She's an executive member of Delhi Gynae Forum East, a recipient of APJ Abdul Kalam Appreciation Award. A very humble and sweet person. Welcome all. The speaker for today's presentation, post-operative care in gynecology, is our own Dr. Meenakshi Sharma, alumni of All India Institute of Medical Sciences. Welcome, Dr. Meenakshi.
Thank you, Dr. Seema. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mashada ma'am, for giving me this opportunity. Ma'am, is my screen visible? Dr. Seema?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
So this is the ERAS protocol in gynae post-op care I will be talking today. We know that the enhanced recovery after surgery has been established as a global surgical quality improvement initiative which results in clinical improvements, improves the cost benefit to the healthcare system, and all the recommendations on ERAS protocol items are based on best available evidence. With the ERAS guidelines was developed for gynae oncology surgery as well as the gynae surgery was first published in 2016. With an updated guidelines now came up in 2019. I will be dealing with this updated version. 2016 ERAS guideline which has come up, there are certain items which has not been changed and has been taken up as such. Like preoperative optimization, smoking and alcohol consumption should be stopped 4 weeks before surgery. Anemia should be actively identified and investigated and corrected preoperatively. Pre-anesthetic medications, routine administration of sedatives to reduce the anxiety preoperatively should be avoided. Nausea, vomiting, multimodal approach should be taken to include more than 2 antiemetics agents. Should be used for patients undergoing gynecological procedures, and urinary catheters should be used for a very short period, preferably less than 24 hours post-operative, and early mobilization is recommended. These are the items which have not been changed since 2016. The things which have changed or which have been updated are basically the more of the evidence which has come up and which lead to the more strong recommendations for other items I will be dealing in detail. This is pre-admission information, education and counseling has been stressed upon in 2019. That when we counsel the patient pre-operatively, it reduces the anxiety, it increases patient satisfaction. And once the patient is very satisfied and is free of any anxiety, the post-operative fatigue is definitely improved. There is much less pain and nausea, and it facilitates early discharge. Counseling provides beneficial effect with no evidence of harm, and it is strongly recommended. Rehabilitation is another concept which has come up in 2019. It has been mainly come up for gynae oncology surgeries, but is true for gynae surgeries as well. It provides the continuum of care from the diagnosis of a disease to actual treatment to optimize the physical and mental well-being to upcoming stressors. Aerobic and resistance exercises to improve the physical function, body composition, and cardiorespiratory fitness. Targeted functional exercises to minimize or prevent impairments. Dietary interventions to support exercise-induced anabolism as well as to mitigate the disease. Psychological interventions to reduce the stress, support behavior change, and encourage overall well-being. So this concept has recently come up. The next important point which we all worry about is the preoperative bowel preparation. Should we go for it? Should we skip the preoperative bowel preparation? The preoperative bowel preparation was introduced to say that it reduces the stool burden to prevent the anastomotic leak, and it reduces the infection. That is true for the mechanical as well as the antibiotic bowel preparations. However, the disadvantages of the mechanical bowel preparations are that it causes preoperative dehydration. It causes electrolyte abnormalities, and hence it delays the post-operative recovery. So in the laparoscopy gynae surgery, the minimal invasive surgeries, there's no benefit in improved intraoperative visualization, ease of bowel handling, or procedure performance of a mechanical bowel preparation. In open surgeries, the data is not available in the gynae surgeries. It has been extrapolated from the colorectal surgeries. Various RCT and meta-analysis have been analyzed, and they have found that the mechanical bowel preparation alone, it does not decrease any mortality, surgical site infections, and the anastomosis leak. However, when oral antibiotics alone are used as a part of SSI bundle, it causes less SSI and anastomotic leak. So oral antibiotics along with a mechanical bowel preparation, there is no additional benefit of a mechanical bowel preparation. So routine preoperative bowel preparation should not be used for minimally invasive surgeries. Its use is similarly discouraged before open laparotomy in gynae oncology surgeries as well as gynae surgeries, especially within the ERAS pathways. The high quality data, which is from the colorectal literature, shows that the mechanical bowel preparation alone does not decrease post-operative morbidity and should thus be abandoned. Limit the use of colonic resections with an oral antibiotic alone or combined with mechanical bowel preparations. These recommendations are strong, and the practice points, the key take-home message from this is that the mechanical bowel preparation alone should not be done. If we have to do a bowel preparation, it should be an antibiotic alone or combined with a mechanical bowel preparation. So preoperative fasting and carbohydrate treatment is a very important concept in the ERAS protocol. Basically, they say to optimize the carbohydrate milieu of the body before surgery and perioperatively and post-operatively is very important so that the patient recovery is enhanced. As the surgical stresses causes post-operative metabolic responses, which is very well marked, and basically it leads to lot of carbohydrate blood sugars going haywire in the post-operative period. And the pre-operatively oral carbohydrates were given. Basically, if the patient has been fasting overnight, and then we take up the patient for the surgery, and post-operatively blood sugars are not very well controlled. If we give a pre-operative oral carbohydrates in the form of a 50 gram in the oral solution just 2 hours before surgery, it has been found in the Cochrane analysis in 2014 that it decreases the catatonic response of overnight fasting and surgery. It improves preoperative well-being and reduces the post-operative insulin resistance with return of bowel function which occurs early, and it results in the shorter hospital stay. So clear fluids can be safely given up to 2 hours prior to surgery, and a light meal up to 6 hours of before elective procedure is planned, requiring general anesthesia. Both in adults and children have been found to be very safe. This has come up from the ERAS 2018 guidelines after the analysis of the available literature. So the recommendation is that patients should be encouraged to eat a light meal until 6 hours and consume clear fluids, including oral carbohydrate drinks, up until 2 hours before the initiation of anesthesia. Patients who have delayed gastric emptying should be fasting overnight or 8 hours before surgery. Administration of preoperative oral carbohydrates should be allowed to the patient to decrease the glucose stress. So the key take-home message is avoid overnight fasting, and oral carbohydrate clear fluids can be taken 2 hours before surgery. Venous thromboembolism prophylaxis is a very important component in the ERAS protocol. The risk of venous thromboembolism is very low in minimal invasive surgery and up to 0.5%, and it is maximum in ovarian cancers, about 17 to 38%. Venous thromboembolism, the highest risk factors are malignancy, BMI, age, pelvic surgery, preoperative steroids, hypercoagulable states, immobility, and extrapelvic disease. So there are two components of venous thromboembolism prophylaxis, mechanical as well as chemoprophylaxis. Mechanical, there is a pneumatic compression stockings, and chemoprophylaxis, there is low molecular weight heparin. All gynae oncology patients who are undergoing a cancer surgery, major surgery lasting longer than 30 minutes, should receive dual venous thromboembolism prophylaxis, which is mechanical, as well as chemoprophylaxis with either low molecular weight heparin or unfractionated heparin, and continue during hospital stay. The important point has been highlighted in the ERAS in 2019 that the prophylaxis should be initiated pre-operatively, even before epidural anesthesia, and continued post-operatively. Extended prophylaxis 28 days post-operatively has been recommended for patients who meet the high-risk ACCP criteria, including patients with advanced ovarian cancer. There is a surgical site infection reduction bundles which have been incorporated in the ERAS 2019. It says that the surgical site infection, any infection which develops within 30 days should be counted as surgical site infection. And it includes antimicrobial prophylaxis, skin preparation, avoiding hypothermia, avoiding surgical drains, and reducing the perioperative hyperglycemia. Antimicrobial prophylaxis, first generation cephalosporin is the first choice for gynae surgeries, and dosage should be weight-based and within 1 hour of incision. Anaerobic coverage should be given wherever pelvic bowel surgery is encountered. And redosing should be dependent on the operative time and blood loss. If operative time is more than 3 hours or a blood loss is there more than 1 liter, then the repeat dosing should be given. Skin preparation, as ma'am has already emphasized, that patient should shower before surgery, and a chlorhexidine alcohol skin-based preparation, which is 70% alcohol, is used for skin preparation before surgery. And we should be avoiding betadine. This should not be any shaving to avoid the microabrasions, and instead use a clippers or a cream. Hypothermia is one of the main reasons that the patients develop shivering and post-op fatigue, and it has been linked to increased risk of surgical site infections as well as cardiac events. So intraoperative normothermia should be incorporated in all ERAS protocols. So the key point is that we should avoid hypothermia at all costs. And this is another concept about the drains and tubes. And this is regarding the drains and tubes to be kept for prevention of infection should not be recommended, because the drain biofilm colonization, that the colonization along the tubes occurs as early as 2 hours after the placement. There is insufficient evidence of subcutaneous or peritoneal drains in reducing the surgical site infection. Even the nasogastric tube is associated with more increased risk of post-op pneumonia and does not prevent intestinal leaks. So the use of drains and tubes should be avoided after abdominal surgery. Control of the perioperative hyperglycemia, as we know that the perioperative blood sugar control and hyperglycemia is associated with surgical site infection in both diabetic as well as non-diabetic patients. So it's a CDC category 1A recommendation that blood sugar perioperative should be less than 200 milligram per deciliter and reduces the surgical site infection almost by more than 55%. So perioperative glucose level should be maintained under 200 in diabetic as well as non-diabetic. All surgical patients should be screened for diabetes. Normal glycemia should be maintained in both peri and post-operative period in both diabetic as well as non-diabetic patients. The standard anesthetic protocol in ERAS 29, basically the ideal goal of anesthesia is that it should cause hypnosis, analgesia, optimal surgical condition. It should optimize the circulation with maintaining the mean arterial pressure and the SpO2. Minimal residual anesthetic effect after the reversal. There should be rapid neurocognitive recovery with minimal nausea and vomiting. So for this, drug of choice is propofol for induction and sevoflurane and desflurane for inhalation anesthesia, and total IV anesthesia regime includes dexmedetomidine, ketamine, and lidocaine. They should be avoiding the long-acting or high-dose opioids. Instead, a short-acting remifentanil should be used. And nitrous oxide should be avoided in gynae surgeries at all because it causes a lot of nausea and vomiting in patients. As such, the gynae surgery patients are more prone to develop nausea and vomiting. So instead, one should use 2 antiemetics to reduce the post-op nausea and vomiting. So the use of short-acting anesthetics, monitoring of neuromuscular block depth, and complete reversal is recommended. Ventilation should be used as a protective strategy with a tidal volume of 6 to 8 ml per kg and a positive end expiratory pressure of 6 to 8 centimeters water. Minimally invasive surgery, the ERAS, basically the main component is to decrease the stress response of the surgery and modify the metabolic response to the surgical insult. And we know that minimal invasive surgery decreases the inflammatory response to surgery and cortisol stress response, which is compared to open surgeries with other benefits of decreased blood loss, analgesia requirement, short hospital stay, and return of bowel movements. So minimal invasive surgery, including the vaginal surgery, is preferred for appropriate patients whenever feasible. Perioperative fluid management is the goal-directed fluid therapy which has been used, and they have found that the excess of the IV fluids overloading the patient also leads to delayed return of bowel function, post-operative ileus, post-operative nausea and vomiting, and increased hospital stay. On the other hand, if the IV fluid is not supplemented properly and patients land up in hypovolemia, it can lead to acute kidney injury, surgical site infection, sepsis, delirium, and it will increase the hospital stay. So ideally, goal-directed fluid therapy should be used, and the technique is used to manage the hemodynamics with the use of fluids as well as inotropes to improve the tissue perfusion and oxygenation, which improves the patient outcome. The goal here is to basically monitor the mean arterial pressure by either an invasive or a non-invasive methods. Usually patients who are having advanced cancer surgeries, which require a prolonged open surgeries, they need to be managed closely for the hemodynamics, and the fluids should be directed and ideally guided be used by the hemodynamic measurement of the patient. There is a new concept, Massimo Pleth Variability Index, which has come up, which is a non-invasive method of managing the basically the hemodynamics of the patient. It is just used like a SpO2, and it monitors the dynamic changes in the perfusion index that occurs during one or more respiratory cycles. So that gives us a guide, but obviously it is not available here. Initially, some studies are evolving into it. Perioperative goal-directed fluid therapy reduces the length of stay and complications in high-risk patients who are undergoing abdominal surgery. Opioid-sparing multimodal post-operative analgesia is basically being promoted by the ERAS protocol. As we know that opioid analgesics are very potent analgesics, but they causes nausea, sedation, and fatigue. So we should be using either a short-acting opioid or a non-opioid alternatives, including NSAIDs, acetaminophen, or gabapentin, or dexamethasone. Usually in ERAS protocol, preoperative oral acetaminophen, celecoxib, and a gabapentin. All the three are given in a single oral formulation to reduce the pain and opioid requirement subsequently. And incisional bupivacaine is incorporated in the ERAS protocol. Post-operative oral medications are preferable to IV. As soon as patient has been able to take orally, patient should be switched over to oral medications. Regional blocks and transverse abdominal plane blocks are effective analgesia, which can be used for patients who are having a post-operative pain. So a multimodal post-operative analgesic protocol successfully reduces the opioid administration and early recovery of such patients. And we should be using incisional bupivacaine for enhanced pain relief. Perioperative nutrition also has been emphasized that the early feeding promotes early return of bowel activity and the reduced hospital stay. As ma'am has also said that within 24 hours after any gynae or oncology surgery, a regular diet should be offered. Patient should be early started on a liquid diet and gradually shifted to a soft diet. There is post-operative ileus, which occurs in almost 30% in the gynae cancer surgeries. Factors which reduces the post-op ileus are minimal invasive surgery, avoiding opioids, early feeding, caffeine, gum chewing, or the sham feeding, maintaining euvolemia throughout perioperative and post-operative period, using multimodal analgesia so that the pain is adequately relieved and patient can be mobilized early. And the use of alvimopine has been used in colorectal surgeries to promote the gut motility. So prevention of the post-op RS, we should be recommending drinking coffee as well as various other elements of ERAS pathway, euvolemia, opioid-sparing analgesia, early feeding, which are safe and inexpensive, and it decreases the time to return to bowel function. So this is the ERAS recovery, which have shown that the recovery is multidimensional. It is physical, emotional, economic, as well as social health. And they've seen that the compared from pre-ERAS to the ERAS pathway, return from fatigue has been seen in 30 days in pre-ERAS surgeries, wherein the ERAS pathway, the fatigue has been reduced to 10 days. Return or to walking without hindrance in laparotomy was seen in 13 days pre-ERAS pathways, and in the ERAS pathway, it has been reduced significantly to 5 days. And in minimally invasive surgery, return to walking with hindrance is reduced to only 2 days. So to conclude, ERAS to be adopted for clinical improvement and cost-benefit healthcare. So reduce the surgical stress and its metabolic effects by proper counseling, avoiding overnight fasting. We should be maintaining euvolemia, normothermia, and carbohydrate metabolism both pre and perioperative period. We should prevent infectious morbidity by following the SSI bundles, and optimal anesthesia with rapid neurocognitive recovery, and multimodal pain relief should be used, and we should be promoting the incisional liposomal bupivacaine, and we should be giving adequate venous thromboembolism prophylaxis to these patients. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Meenakshi. Now I invite our expert, Dr. Malvika ma'am, to give her comment.
Dr. Meenakshi, it was really excellent. And I must congratulate for the topic, because it's an excellent topic. And all of us, whether in the field of gynecology, obstetrics, we all need to really adopt it. It is wonderful. Dr. Jyotsna and Dr. Meenakshi have done a wonderful job, really. And I must share with you just a few points. Because ERAS, when I first came across, I was super impressed, because this is something that, I realized, even without knowing it, that long time back, the counseling which we were doing to the patients was very important. If I was to tell a patient, those were the days when we were not doing laparoscopic surgery. If I was going to be doing an abdominal hysterectomy, I told her, this is the incision I'm going to give you. These are my do's and don'ts, and this is the staircase going up and down, bending down. So all this was told prior in the counseling. But to take a turn and to get up and to move around, and you can even make your own tea and your own whatever and your own breakfast is okay. And mind you, we've had patients who were ambulated and felt very good. So the basic ERAS, or the enhanced recovery after surgical pathways which have come out, and all of them, basically is to have a better outcome of these patients, to reduce the stress so that they are happier state, whether they're delivered or they've been operated for a myomectomy or a hysterectomy or whatsoever. Basically, they should be a happy experience, and they should be with that counseled, that counseling has gone in, okay, I'm going to take away your bleeding problem, I'm going to take away the fibroid, I'm going to make you a happier person. So that is the state of mind with which the patient goes with you into the theatre. And that is the one which stays. Jyotsna very nicely showed you a picture of skin to skin. I think we all in private are following that. So even in a person who's operated, so if you have explained to her nicely and you have followed, the protocols have been so beautifully put that give your touching of those gases for intubation and extubation rather than isoflurane when you're using the shock tacting, to intubate the patient. It's so important. The patient just gets up. The least opiates what you use in the post-op period, the more and more paracetamols if you use, the patient is alert. And what I do is, if I operate in the night, I want them all slept. So I would give them a nice, good sleeping thing. In the morning, I want all the curtains open and they should see a daylight. They should be absolutely up. They have to be ambulated. After any spinal anesthesia or whatsoever, movements of your arms and your legs should be followed. One very important thing that you touched, Meenakshi, was having, I cannot follow that. कि आप उनको glucose दे दो 2 घंटे के पहले. I really worry कि वो if she was to aspirate something in a general anesthesia, I'm a little skeptical about that, personally. So I don't do that, but I tell them no milk, but they can have maybe 4 to 6 hours, maybe a light tea with the hardly any milk, or a green tea with some biscuits if I have to operate 6 hours down, So that is what I personally follow. That's my own experience. And Post-operatively, of course, I put them to early food, early. I really want them. The first thing that they do is I tell them to try and organize Nariyal Pani, which has got electrolytes, and Nimbu Pani with sugar and everything, because the carbs have to go in. That well-being only comes once you're feeling better and you start. And this is very important. Of course, very nicely put forward for diabetic patients that you have to maintain the glucose. There is no doubt. But the movements, if done, the patient feels just wonderful. I've already mentioned my little apprehension, I'm skeptical about that. After post-spinal, we've had a discussion earlier. So we will see what you all tell me later. And regarding bathing, the next day the patient has to have a bath when I go there. So I normally try and remove the bandage in 48 hours, but nowadays patients want to go home in 24 hours. So I've got a lot of testimonials where the girls are dancing after maybe a myomectomy, which has lasted for so long, or a hysterectomy. Of course, they are very comfortable, but myomectomy, sometimes I've seen that they'll end up having fever, etc., etc. So that is there. But patients, they feel as you make them feel. If you are comfortable, the patient is comfortable. So there is no problem. They will be going home. After, of course, laparoscopic surgery, they go up and down the stairs. There's no problem. But after open surgery, I also tell them about the staircase, etc. They have to go slow. But Adi Janta to upari first floor pe rahegi, second floor pe rahegi. So you have to also send them home. All those things we have to take care of. And, you've touched upon, for a fat patient, and especially myomectomies, I would use a lot of these prophylaxis, because I'm scared about DVT. I also use, Madam Sharda mentioned about the DVT pump. It is very important to have one in the hospital. And thankfully, we do have. And, the patient's stay in the hospital is short. And they're so happy going back home. They're back to the normal, and they're very happy doing all that. So in case we were to form a pre-op, intra-op, and post-op, I think all of them clubbed together, if we were to accept it as an institution, that these are the protocols. Like, for example, I can't take my round in 4 hours after surgery. There is a doctor who has to take it. It's a junior doctor. She'll go and make them do all the movements, etc. So these SOPs have to be formed. And like, I think you only pointed out to Madam, I think Dr. Jyotsna or Dr. Pratima said that they have it all stuck in their labor room. All those things should be that this is what is the protocol, just like NABH and all that. We should have these set protocols, which we have to have for our guidelines. And I think it's a very important subject, which has made us also very happy and the patients very happy. And they started to enjoy the experience much more. And I have to congratulate all of you. And Enhanced Recovery After Surgery is a comprehensive program, and the data demonstrates success when multiple components of the ERAS pathways are all implemented together. So we should all put our best foot forward for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Pratima, ma'am, any your comments?
Renu Chawla, your comments are needed.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Enhanced recovery after gynae surgery, also known as fast-track surgery. So it includes multidisciplinary, multimodal interactions. It focuses on pre-operative things also. So we should also concentrate on seeing the health issues of the patient. Whatever health issues she has, we should always try to control them first before we take her up for surgery. Or otherwise, we should counsel the patient that these are your shortcomings, these all medical problems you have, so that you whatever recovery you are expecting. Because otherwise, this ERAS focuses on optimizing patient education, perioperative expectations, decreasing pre-operative fasting. Pre-operative fasting, if they reduce, patient feels comfortable. They are not in stress. If they घंटे तक हमें नहीं खाना है, so if 2 to 4 hours they are meal orally, it is comfortable for them. So we should concentrate on that. We should not make them remain meal orally for long hours. Secondly, during operation, if patient is under spinal anesthesia, regional anesthesia, then care should be taken to give her analgesia at that time only, so that immediate post-op period is pain-free. And for pain, we should have multimodal approach so that only one painkiller is not given. We should use 2 to 3 so that her post-operative pain is covered fully. If we start the patient on oral feeds early, the patient feels comfortable. उसको लगता है कि हाँ कुछ ज्यादा नहीं हुआ है, सर्जरी तो हुई है पर मैं comfortable हूँ, मुझे कोई ज्यादा तकलीफ नहीं है. If we keep them nilorally for long hours, एक तो वो IBS is more. Secondly, patient keeps feeling कि something, I have had a big surgery and I will require more time to recover. So if we start feeding early, they recover faster. Otherwise,
Dr. Suchi.
Meenakshi has covered all the things very beautifully, peri-operative and post-op. So once we plan to send her home, so we should be clear that she has less of pain, she is able to move around, so that after she goes home, she is not disturbed or she is not scared that I cannot move around, I should not eat this, I should not eat that. So we should give her proper guidance before we send her home.
And there is one thing in the ERAS protocol in 2019 about the venous prophylaxis, where even pre-operatively they were giving a dual prophylaxis.
Yes.
And I was very scared, how can you give it just before surgery, giving a low molecular weight heparin? I looked for the onset of action. It is just 1 hour and 2 hours, the onset of action will start. That is the one thing which...
Yes. But that's in the discussion. They have another, I'm forgetting the name of the injection which you have to give 24 hours. It works for 24 hours. Like we give Clexin.
Yes, ma'am.
Similarly, that has got a duration of action of 24 hours. So one shot and you've done your surgery and, thereafter she's mobile and, you are kind
They
of
had
safe.
given the references also to pre-operatively, intraoperatively bleeding. If we give a pre-operatively heparin or a low molecular weight heparin, intraoperative bleeding was not much, but there was significant decrease in pulmonary thromboembolism and venous thromboembolism.
Correct.
Even,
Meenakshi,
yes, you're right.
The doses are very less. The doses only 20 milligram they are giving subcutaneous. The doses are very less which you are giving. Usually it is 60 and 40, whatever you're giving. That is not going to cause any effect on the bleeding. It is 20 milligram pre-operative prophylaxis they are giving. The dose has to be like this. You cannot give 60 milligram subcutaneously giving half an hour before. So it is 20 and 20 is not going to hamper your coagulation at all. That is a prophylactic dose. So you do not do a therapeutic dose. You have to be very clear about that.
Surjit, no. I've seen, now I operate with my brother, so I know how things are. Pre-operatively 24 hours, depending upon the weight, they give 40 to 60
Yes.
And 24 hours is
80.
not there. The day surgery has been done, either we start the same day in the evening or we start next morning this dose, and we give it for 7 days in case the person is very fat. Otherwise, till the 2-3 days they can have it. But अच्छा खासा मोटा आदमी उसको 7 दिन देते हैं, and this is the pulmonary embolism silently which gives UP.
Yes.
And secondly is that early feeding. And मुझे नारियल पानी बहुत पसंद है. मैं सोचती हूँ नारियल पानी आपको देना चाहिए. First day, first post-operative day.
बिल्कुल मैडम immediately 2-3 घंटे में दे दो आप.
Yes.
3 hours में दे दो. मैं तो I insist
And
on
you can take it from me.
fresh
अगर
नारियल
आपको नारियल पानी दोगे ना 24 hours के बाद 3 and then third day also 3, your infection rate will be also less.
And
Madam,
just
you don't need, this is something very important. आपके लिए. अच्छा, one more thing I would like to share with you, madam, is that, I leave fluid inside. Intraperitoneally, if you leave fluid, the patient is nicely hydrated. And you can, the aim is to take the IV line off. But the 24 घंटे में तो IV line हटाना ही हटाना है उसको. You have covered your antibiotic, you've covered, and the patient is feeling without any cannulas, absolutely mobile, ambulatory. She's fit and fine. So leave at least
And
2
this
liters,
DVT
3
pump,
liters.
it is not very costly. Right at the time, you give it for another 24 hours and you find 24 hours, another 12 hours. Patient is so comfortable and she says her legs are absolutely great. Otherwise, we used to find they used to get numb and things like that. That is not there.
To be very strong, they need to be relevant.
And you mentioned about the vomiting. I've seen an anesthetist twice a day. Particular tip, you should take it for cesarean section patient also, but you should give them an NSAID twice a day. That is 3 doses they give. And Pentoside is only once a day. So this is what you should remember, that they will not have any problem.
Madam, you repeat what you said? Could not hear. Shada madam?
मैम एमसेट होते ना, ये जो आपकी Well, normally they feel that, you know, this particular nausea feeling makes them sick. So give them
Yes.
Dr. Amset, and that's
Yeah.
very good.
I also use a lot of
Can I
that.
ask one question?
Yes.
Dr. Meenakshi, any comments about per rectal or maybe percutaneous?
Ma'am, you're muted.
Can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
What about per rectal and percutaneous analgesics? They are also very useful. You don't give them oral. So patients respond very well. And we don't have to give intravenous or intramuscular analgesics anyone. Just use per rectal, Voveron, or maybe suppositories.
Yes, yes. Jonak, Jonak. We just put it per rectally.
Yeah.
After cesarean also we
Dr.
use the
Surjit, you want to say something? Dr. Surjit?
I think it has been excellently present by Meenakshi. We must, and Dr. Malvika has explained all the things later on. There is nothing new to say. I always say, you are counseling, pre-operative evaluation, skillful surgery, attentive post-operative care. Attentive post-operative care, that is going to give you the wonderful results, and the patient is very happy after that. That has to be things which has to be mentioned. And your post-operative just starts after just coming from the OT and then while you're going home. It is a complete post-operative. One thing I just want to emphasize, your availability should be there. Post-operative. Mostly patients have a complaint and pre-operative, we talk them, we convince them too much about this. And the post-operative period is not very, for them it is not very, they are not very happy with the post-operative, nobody looked after me. That is very important. You have to be available to the patient. At least when you should ask, you should be physically present to see your patient. Commonly where there are heavy post-operative, heavy OT lists, we are working in a nursing homes. We have one surgery at a one time. But normally, even after during OPD, I just go after 2 hours to see the pulse, BP myself. I don't leave it on my sisters because we are working in a small setup. In the small setup, we have a lot of problem. We do not have a much of RMOs there. We are the RMOs, we are the multi-purpose worker there. So I normally make it to the point that I have to go and see the patient after 2 hours. That is very important. After that, you can see in the evening. One important thing. And second important thing is, even normally what we see, normally people do not do it unless it is an emergency. You do a surgery and just go away for the vacations and all that. Normally I do not do. My availability should be there at least for 3 days. If I plan my vacations, I normally ask my friend to operate. Normally. That is very important. So that patient should have a complete, they should be, whoever the surgeon has operated on, they should be very comfortable with that surgeon. So one must take care of all these things till you discharge. I always ask my bacha party, now the next generation has come to this thing. I said it is not very difficult for the patient to bring on the OT table. You have to learn how from the OT table going home is the most important thing. That is the most important thing. So normally we don't take very high risk surgery. We are doing simple surgeries in our nursing home. We are not taking high risk. If something happens by chance in the OT, that is another thing. But commonly we do. But only learning point is this, which I teach to everyone, youngsters, it is not very difficult to bring the patient on the OT table. It is very difficult, which you have to learn very carefully that your patient from the OT table going home is what kind of things you are having. But that is very important. Patient is coming. Even the patient is troubling you too much. You have to take attention to that. Even some patients are very sensitive. I said in the practice, we have a number of patients who are very sensitive, but we have to go every time to see that whatever she is saying, whatever she is complaining, that is important. The rest of the part has been really wonderfully explained by Meenakshi. It is really good topic. And later on, Dr. Malvika has completed all the things. One thing I want, Meenakshi, you said to us before we can give this. Is there any amount also? No.
Yes, ma'am. 50 gram carbohydrate, basically sort of a Nibu Pani. You can give early in the morning.
How much water? In how much water? What amount of this thing?
They have not mentioned the amount of water, but 50 gram of carbohydrate.
Yes, that is also important. We say it is 150 ml, not more than 150 ml. I asked my sister if they really want it. I asked my sister because normally laparoscopic surgery, that has become a habit only. We give pyridium tablet. 2 hours before. 2 hours before we give pyridium surgery just to for any ureteric or anything, we can just appreciate it later on. It's a habit only. It is not why we are giving. So normally we give that pyridium tablet. We ask the patient. We do not ask the patient to take it. I ask the sister, you go and give this amount of water, then she'll take that tablet in front of you. Nothing should be like, आपने patient को बोल दिया कि आप ले लेना, और you don't rely on our patient कि हाँ उसने हमारी बात पूरी ऐसे मान ली है. We have to make sure that my sister has gone with a glass of water, whatever the amount is required. I think it is 100 to 150 ml, if I remember correctly. I read it. It is, you can have that thing. And no cola and all, nothing. No like saying carbonated drinks should not be allowed. It is. I think madam is very fond of. Everybody is fond of one nariyal pani. Now the people have become weight conscious. Everybody is going after nariyal pani. They are not taking anything.
No, but you know, Dr. Surjit, there are very nice post-op drinks available abroad.
Yes, yes.
I don't see them here. You know, they are rich in carbohydrates, calories. Everything is right. So they actually tell you to have that.
They have post-operative drink also. They have post-operative drink also, which are energy, which are protein based.
Yes, protein based, protein and calorie and carbs. Everything, yeah.
They have pre-operative carbohydrate based and post-operative protein based.
Protein based. Yes, you're right.
They have. It is available in the hospital. Madam, sometimes we think we all should make one good post-operative. I think sometimes some people do not have their relatives to take care after discharge. Some people do not have nearby their no friends, nothing, nobody. There should be something about the post-operative homes, which is very popular in outside like country. We never thought of all these things. We just train the staff for the post-operative care. They should go to their house. They should ask them morning, evening, what are they eating, how they are doing it. Like, this is very popular outside, very popular outside. They have a particular homes also, post-op homes. They have written the name, it is a post-op homes. Anybody can avail that services if you can afford it. And they are doing wonderful job. Like the 3 W's, they say there are 3 W's, that is a water, that is a work, that is a wound. And they take care of 3 things together. You don't have to bother about them. That is a trained staff which is doing it.
Doctor, can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Doctor, मैं हिंदुस्तानी और हिंदुस्तानियों की बात करूंगी. I think Indian doctors are famous everywhere. The post-operative period can also be absolutely smooth. One thing I feel, every bed should have a monitor.
Yes.
That patient, you know, every time beep cuff लगाना ये सब गलत बात है. आपने बस press करो, everything should definitely come, and I think that's a very easy thing which one can do it. Patient is also comfortable, the relatives are also comfortable, they never chase you. उनको BP दिखाई दे रहा, oxygen saturation दिखाई दे रही, pulse दिखाई दे रहा, और अब तो उनको सब कुछ पता चलता है. वहां पर एक टेम्परेचर का लगाते हैं, उसको अपने आप ही वो लगा के देख सकते हैं कि इसको टेम्परेचर है कि नहीं है. So what I feel is these things make you very, very comfortable. हमारे यहाँ doctors are obsessed, patients are obsessed about food. डॉक्टर क्या खाना है, क्या खाना है? I find is कोई आदमी बिल्कुल ही कुछ भी नहीं बना सकता, तो वो एक मूंग की दाल बना सकता है और एक बढ़िया सा सूप घर में बना सकता है, और 3 बार उसको नारियल पानी पिला दो. I think you know this is what is day one is. सब लोग खिचड़ी उचड़ी बनाना जानते हैं, सब अच्छी तरह से पूछते हैं, वो हमारे से पूछते ही रह जाते हैं डॉक्टर साहब क्या खाना, बिकॉज उनको कोई बाहर की ड्रिंक्स की जरूरत नहीं है. जितना नेचुरल ड्रिंक्स दोगे उतना ही अच्छा है. And I can tell you, I just totally disagree with Dr. Surjit and Dr. Malvika. Things are outside. Indian things are absolutely great.
मैडम, मैं तो भैया नारियल, मैडम मैं तो अपने वहाँ पे बोलती हूँ कि मुझे वो बॉटल वाला नारियल पानी नहीं चाहिए. I want only natural नारियल पानी. Only natural. I'm just telling you that these things are available outside. Here, Hindustani में तो, you know, our nari is so good. I recommend that to all my patients. And fresh, not the वो वाला क्या बोलते हो bottle, not that bottle. No.
Another thing is, the other day, you know, these people had discussed on the 10th hepatitis B and hepatitis C, what preoperative preparation and what things are required for surgery. The discussion went on for 2.5 hours that day also. It was great. And I think it was wonderful CME today, wonderful CME. We are grateful to Dr. Pratima, Dr. Uma Rai, Dr. Anil, Dr. Surjit Kapoor, Dr. Renu, everybody done a great job. And Josna, hats off to you, and Dr. Meenakshi. Meenakshi was asking, Doctor, who should do the presentation? I said, टक्कर जोशना को देनी है तो मीनाक्षी शर्मा ही दे सकती है.
Yes.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you so
Yes.
And there's a saying, we are Insonians, we are different.
much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.